A new article has just appeared on CleanTechnica. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to. Why? Because this article claims, as backed by the editor of CleanTechnica and the writer, who used to be one of my favourite writers, Steve Hanley, that Elon Musk is not only a fraudster, a scammer, a sex pest, a megalomaniac, a narcissist, someone who should never be involved with Tesla or SpaceX ever again, should not be allowed to raise children, and that he is now a symbol for the far-right movement, even comparing him to Putin himself, also claiming that Musk is supporting the entrapment of young women in need of healthcare, supporting a system that is sexist, he's bigoted, he's a racist, and that he's also enforcing indentured servitude on the employees at his companies. This is what they've said. This is what the website now claims to represent. I want to share with you their comments, and I really want to know what you have to think about these, whether you agree or you disagree. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. Now, I haven't done a video like this before. I've never been this shocked. I've never been this surprised. I've never, ever, to be honest, had these feelings. I've never felt this dismayed. So let's get started. CleanTechnica just ran some people are calling it a hit piece. Now, I need to disclose with you some important information first. At the bottom of the article, it says copyright at 2021 CleanTechnica. The content produced by this site is for entertainment purposes only. So, take it with a grain of salt. However, there is a lot of supporting comments from the editors and moderators of the site and writers on the site in the comment section, supporting the comments, not only the comments under the article, but also the statements made in the article. And in fact, the editor, Zachary Strahan, and other people who work at the company have endorsed many of these comments by liking them. And basically have given full weight to the comments not only expressed by the writer, but also to the comments in the comment section, which I have to say is quite surprising. Now, many of you have heard me reference Steve Hanley and CleanTechnica, and I've often referred people to that website. Well, now Steve has written an article called Elon Musk has gone off the rails. Will he take Tesla and SpaceX with him? Now, the title is very kind. It's nothing at all like the actual content. In fact, the content, I believe, is scathing. Could potentially be something that they could be sued for. Aside from saying that they're, putting the disclaimer at the bottom of the article saying that it is simply for entertainment purposes. There's certainly some slander going on there. Whether or not the website is in a position to be able to handle that kind of lawsuit, I don't know. But frankly, I'm shocked that they've gone out on this kind of a limb, put themselves at immense risk, because there's some very extreme claims being made in this article. Steve says, over the years, we've written hundreds of articles about Elon and his company. It must be said, we are in the click business. The number of hits we get on the stories we write determines how much money comes in the door, and putting Musk or Tesla in the title guarantees the story to get a fair number of them. Here's the truth, says Steve. Elon is now a danger to himself, his companies, and the hundreds of thousands of supporters who have made him the wealthiest person in human history. Now, I need to put a disclaimer in here. Elon is definitely not the wealthiest person in human history, not even close. Now, first of all, he's not the wealthiest person on the planet right now. Many people believe that that is Vladimir Putin. But if we're going to talk about history, then the wealthiest person in human history was Augustus Caesar. He had a personal fortune of around $4.6 trillion. So, yeah, about 20 times more than Elon Musk is currently worth. Andrew Carnegie, who lived from 1835 to 1919, had a fortune estimated at $372 billion. John D. Rockefeller, $341 billion. And Nikolai Alexandrovich Romanov from Russia was estimated at having a fortune of $300 billion. Steve goes on. In the past few weeks, he has become more and more unhinged. It all began to unravel when Elon the Magnificent decided he and he alone should be the sole arbiter of what people could and could not say on social media. Now, personally, that wasn't the message that I got. I didn't think that Elon had control of Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or any of those other social media places that I don't use because I don't understand them because I'm too old for that. You probably know what I'm talking about. I do believe that Elon wants to enforce government rules on free speech on Twitter. I think that's what he said, something along those lines. So I think this claim here by Steve is hyperbole. Let's continue. Free speech. Elon huffed. Well, here's how the great man will handle free speech once he gets his hooks into Twitter. This week, a group of dissatisfied SpaceX employees penned an open letter to Musk, begging him to stick his knitting and stop making asinine comments in public. Comments, they said, brought the company into disrepute. Now, the letter reads in part, Elon's behavior in the public sphere is a frequent source of distraction and embarrassment for us, particularly in recent weeks. As our CEO and most prominent spokesperson, Elon is seen as the face of SpaceX. Every tweet that Elon sends is a de facto public statement by the company. It is critical to make clear to our teams and to our potential talent pool that his messaging does not reflect our work, our mission, and our values. Now, the letter goes on. It argues that SpaceX is not living up to its oft-stated no arsehole policy and its zero tolerance sexual harassment policy, implying that Elon is guilty of sexual harassment. The document goes on to suggest 3 different action items to address the situation. SpaceX should publicly address and condemn Elon's harmful Twitter behavior. SpaceX should hold all leadership equally accountable for bad behavior, and SpaceX needs to clearly define what exactly is intended by SpaceX's no arsehole and zero tolerance policies and enforce them consistently. Now, Steve claims that this letter is and should be celebrated as an example of free speech. 5 of the people who were complicit in sending this email to SpaceX employees on multiple occasions, who were brought up for harassment by other employees because they didn't want to keep being emailed by these employees, were actually fired. Now, in an email to employees Thursday reviewed by the Washington Post, SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell said the letter made employees feel uncomfortable, intimidated, and bullied, and pressured into signing a document that did not necessarily reflect their views. Now, I've changed some of the comments here because Steve has completely misrepresented the entire situation intentionally to try to get you to click and make this a more sensational article. But I think it's fair that we provide a little bit of context, which is that those employees did break employee rules in either a private or public company. They were fired under very fair grounds, and they have no grounds for unfair dismissal whatsoever, and no one is saying they do, other than maybe Steve is suggesting that, but not saying it outright. Gwynne Shotwell told employees that the concerns raised in the letter threatened to derail SpaceX's focus on several key tasks. We have 3 launches within 37 hours for critical satellites this weekend. We have to support the astronauts we delivered to the space station and get Cargo Dragon back to flight ready. And after receiving environmental approval early this week, we are on the cusp of the first orbital launch attempt of Starship. We have too much critical work to accomplish and no need for this kind of overreaching activism. Our current leadership team is more dedicated to ensuring we have a great and ever-improving work environment than any I've seen in my 35-year career. She added that blanketing thousands of people across the company with continued requests to sign onto the letter does not show the strong judgment needed to work in this very challenging space, the transportation sector. So, to rebut Steve Hanley's comments, SpaceX employees were not fired for free speech. Gwynne Shotwell's letter covers it well. They were emailing employees more than once, asking them to sign on to their letter. Employees complained about feeling harassed through the company email system and bullied into signing something that they didn't want to sign. Now, free speech does exist, Steve's right, but free speech does of course have consequences as well. Now, If I worked for a trucking company and I took time off from loading trucks to organize other people to tell my boss that he sucks, then I think he'd probably start looking for a replacement for me. Fair to say, right? Now, management, in my view, correct me if you think I'm wrong, have a legitimate grievance. If their employees decide that other tasks are more important than those tasks in their job description, workers using time for activism is, well, it's basically striking. This is essentially workers demanding to have a say in how the company is run. Employment law in the United States does not allow workers to have a say in their company's public relations. That's what happened here. Is it really, Steve? Steve, I hope you're listening. Is it really appropriate for workers at the company to demand to have a say in how the company is run? To blast the CEO publicly, to bombard the staff with emails, and to create international news? I'm not so sure that's called free speech. And if it is, well, surely there must be consequences. Now, Steve goes on to say that Musk is a fraudster. He says his pump and dump scheme is a fraud he's using to enrich himself. He says this: in another development, cryptocurrency investor Keith Johnson has filed suit in federal court in Manhattan, accusing the exalted Mr. Musk and others of racketeering for touting Dogecoin and driving up its price, only to then let the price tumble. The practice is known in investing circles as a pump and dump scheme. Now, Steve, clearly by bringing this up, is accusing Elon of participating in a pump and dump scheme. Defendants were aware since 2019 that Dogecoin had no value yet, promoted Dogecoin to profit from its trading. Musk used his pedestal as the world's richest man to operate and manipulate the Dogecoin pyramid scheme for profit, exposure, and amusement. In the complaint, Johnson argues that Dogecoin's sell-off began around the time Musk hosted the NBC show Saturday Night Live, during which he called Dogecoin a hustle while playing a fictitious financial expert on the show's Weekend Update. Now, Johnson wants $86 billion in damages, representing the decline in Dogecoin's market value since May 2021. Under federal racketeering law, the court can award triple damages, which could bring the total to approximately Elon's entire net worth, says Steve. He also seeks to block Musk and his companies from promoting Dogecoin and for the court to declare that trading Dogecoin is gambling under federal and New York law. Now, how do you feel about this? Has Elon unfairly profited from Dogecoin? Has he sold Dogecoin and made a profit at others' expense? Well, I did some Googling on this and I found he hasn't made a single dollar of profit on Dogecoin at all. Now, as far as I'm aware, you can't actually make a pump and dump case against someone who continues to hold, promote, and work with the founder of the asset that they still hold in great quantities. The other question I have is, how can you give credit to a person for this asset's decline, but not actually give them any credit for the unlikely skyrocketing of this asset's value in the first place? Blaming someone for the decline, but then ignoring their contribution to its popularity that made it an attractive investment in the first place, doesn't really make sense to me. As far as I can tell, Elon isn't the CEO of Dogecoin. It's a cryptocurrency. Now that we're in a crypto crash, hey, let's find a scapegoat. I invested in something, that investment isn't going well, let's blame Elon Musk. I can't see any way in which Elon has benefited from promoting Dogecoin, and I can't understand why Steve Hanley would be implying that he is a fraudster trying to benefit from a pump and dump scheme. He hasn't made any money. There's been no financial benefit to Elon at all. But hey, maybe I'm misunderstanding, I've misheard, and maybe Elon has made millions of dollars and I'm not aware of that. But if he has, I want to know. Let me know in the comment section below. Educate me by all means, please. Next up, Steve accuses Elon of sexual harassment. He says, this week, Tesla shareholder Solomon Chor has filed suit in federal court in Texas against Musk, Tesla and the company's board of directors, alleging they have neglected to tackle complaints about workforce discrimination and harassment while creating a toxic workplace culture. The state of California also filed a similar suit earlier this year, claiming the company has allowed a culture of rampant racism to thrive at its factory in Fremont. Tesla has created a toxic workplace culture grounded in racist and sexist abuse and discrimination against its own employees. The lawsuit states, this toxic work environment has gestated internally for years. And only recently has the truth about Tesla's culture emerged. Tesla's toxic workplace culture has caused financial harm and irreparable damage to the company's reputation. The lawsuit accuses the defendants, Musk, 11 Tesla board members, and the company of having breached their fiduciary duty by failing to address and remedy the red flags concerning internal reports of discrimination and harassment. This caused Tesla to lose high-quality employees and incur costs for defending cases and settling fines for violation, the lawsuit claims. Now, on these points, this might just sound like an article, but the reality is, in the comment section below, many people have accused Elon Musk of being a sexual deviant harasser. They've accused him of being racist, of being bigoted, and of segregating Tesla. They've in fact implied on a number of occasions that he personally has a very strong dislike for black people, that Tesla is a racially segregated factory, and that Elon has no respect for anyone at all in America as he's wealthier than all of them. Now, not every single one of these comments was liked by CleanTechnica staff, but a lot of them were. A lot of them were liked, in fact, more than I would. In fact, a lot more of them were liked by Zachary Strahan, the editor of CleanTechnica, than any other employee at CleanTechnica. And to be honest, I've got to say, there's disliking Elon. There's thinking, he's saying the wrong thing. He shouldn't be looking like he's supporting Republicans, and I understand that. But then it's making these kind of outlandish comments. I am genuinely concerned that these guys could get sued for making these kinds of claims. Because frankly, I think it's just going a little bit too far. Now, next up, Steve says that Musk's cavalier attitude about free speech is revealed by how he has responded to two similar situations, one in the US and one in China. When public health officials in Alameda County, California sought to impose workplace restrictions on the Fremont factory during the early stages of the COVID pandemic, Musk became apoplectic. In retaliation, he decided to move Tesla's headquarters to Texas. When officials in Shanghai, China recently shut down all manufacturing for nearly a month, the great and powerful Musk had nothing to say. In fact, he has nothing to say about the way China has crushed democracy in Hong Kong or subjected an entire ethnic minority to being virtual slaves. Now, I should point out that Zachary Strahan also liked a comment which said that Tesla is guaranteed to lose. It will lose its factory in China because of Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter. Those things don't align. Therefore, the Chinese will take away Tesla's factory from them. And there's nothing that they can do or say about that anyway. So I'm a bit confused there. Musk has no overarching principles, according to Steve Hanley. He only acts on what he sees, as in his own selfish interest. Steve says he looks cowardly and small in comparison to Elie Wiesel, who famously said, "There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but we must never fail to protest." Musk is also given to what are popularly known as dick jokes. He is obsessed with his own sexual prowess as he sires an ever-expanding brood of children by a succession of women, none of whom he is married to. He has belittled Bill Gates by suggesting his visage would cause erectile dysfunction and ridiculed Jeff Bezos by building a rocket that looks for all the world like a fella's. And of course, there was the unfortunate and cruel reference to a man helping rescue boys from a flooded cave as pedo guy. Now, to set the record straight, not because I'm some enormous fan of Elon Musk, to be honest, he does and says things sometimes that I don't agree with. But he hasn't sired a brood of children by a succession of women. In fact, there is only 2 mothers to his, I believe, 6 children, right? In fact, there is only 2 mothers to his 7 children. Of course, there was the twins and then the triplets to the first. And then Grimes has had the last 2. So there's been 2 women. And I think, to be honest, it's not really that bad if we want to compare it to someone like Dwight Howard, NBA player, who has 7 different children to 7 different women. Maybe that's more of a moral thing you can get on your high horse about. But maybe not so much this one here. Now, Steve says the only conclusion we can draw from all of this is that Elon Musk is a nut. A very rich nut, a loose cannon. Actions have consequences. A former NASA official tells the Washington Post that people within the agency are truly worried about the direction the company is going in. NASA has crawled into bed with SpaceX, which is the only game in town for all intents and purposes, but Musk's behavior has a lot of people concerned for his mental stability. This is the guy, after all, who wants to create trillions of happy digital humans living inside computers and gladly working until 3 a.m. to glorify their leader. A strutting peacock of a man who lacks the capacity to exhibit any compassion for others. Perhaps this passage from Macbeth is pertinent here and might offer some valuable guidance to the mercurial Elon Musk. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools, the way to dusty death, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Now, Cynthia Irene, who is CleanTechnica's community manager, has made the following claim. It's the first comment under the article. Musk supports a system that is directly sexist and worse. He's directly supporting the ownership of someone else's body, effectively returning women to being someone else's property. He would have to be completely uninformed to know that women's bodies are now considered someone else's property by this hideously cruel red wave. To force entrapment on a young woman in need of healthcare rather than healthcare support, this is his red wave. To think the man has a female child is sad. Another deadbeat dad, no matter how rich he is. Here's a quick selection of the comments, many of which have been liked and endorsed by the writers, editors at CleanTechnica. Well, the first one, which kind of made me laugh, was this. Mary Barra never makes stupid comments. I thought you guys would like that one. I thought that was pretty funny. A lot of people liked that comment, by the way. There's like 20 or 30 likes on that one. So that was a very strongly supported comment. Another one. Musk is going to crash Tesla's resale value and destroy shareholders. Starlink and SpaceX will go bankrupt. Musk is forcing indentured servitude onto as many people as he can. Musk's power must be 100% removed, and he must not be allowed to use social media at all. He must be banned from social media permanently. Musk must be fired from Tesla immediately. Musk knows nothing about politics and should not be allowed to speak about them at all. In fact, that was said by the CleanTechnica editor, Zachary Strahan. He claimed that Musk shouldn't have any free speech and he should not be allowed to speak about politics. I found that interesting. I thought that was maybe a little bit hypocritical, considering the article was saying that free speech should be allowed, and then they're saying Musk shouldn't have any free speech. So I think you can't really have your cake and eat it. You've got to choose one or the other. But that's just me. Now, he also said that if you vote Republican, you are a criminal. Now, I'm not an American. I don't vote Republican. I don't vote Democrat. To be honest, I think all politicians are corrupt. Pretty much all of them. I think they're all part of the problem. I agree with Russell Brand. You know what? There is no real good side and no bad side. Some of them say good things, some of them say bad things. Day to day, it's all over the place. Really, to me, the problem is politicians. All of them. Not one group, not the other. All of them are a problem. The whole system needs to be fixed. That's just my view, though. Now, CleanTechnica's editor says that Elon's extremist views on what constitutes good governance have gotten much more apparent as his power and wealth have increased. But those extremist views were always there. Now, the comments just below that go on to say that Tesla runs a racially segregated factory, that when Musk supported Democrat Andrew Yang, he proved he's a sociopath, and that if you defend or agree with anything that Musk says, you are simply a Tesla fanatic. CT's editor goes on to say that Elon Musk doesn't give an F about anything anymore. And his mindset is, I don't care, because ain't no one bringing me down. Now, other commenters in the comment section go on to be very heavily supported, making comments like this, right? Elon has an apartheid mentality and views. Being born in South Africa during the height of apartheid, he was conditioned to it from birth. You cannot grow up under a regime like apartheid and not be molded by it, for the good or the bad. And seeing how rampant racism and sexism are in Tesla and SpaceX, it's clear that Musk was molded by apartheid. Now, I think it's the most repeated comment on that article now. I think it's repeated about 10 different times. Says this: apartheid and everything he grew up with was deeply embedded into him. I met and dealt with him in Canada before he went to the USA. Believe me that he was impacted. He was loose and easy with terms like kafir. Some whites make it sound like kafir, which is an extremely rude term for blacks and others. Now, others made the apparently popular comment that he supports forced birth and death for women and is speaking out loud against contraception, banning books, and ramping up attacks on minority groups. Now, CT's editor says that it is a certainty that there are far-right nutjobs in his ear feeding him misinformation every single day, and that he has aligned himself with the climate-denying far-right. Others say he's an evil man because he hasn't paid any money in taxes. Well, I think he has paid something, but I can understand the view if some people think he should pay more tax. One of the most popular comments, though, was a little bit sad in my view. It says this: I hate him now and see him as a threat to democracy. He became a dangerous man for all sane people. Musk is promoting useless, worthless Dogecoin and dragging down the reputation of all cryptos, and it's happening now. What I found was a very surprising attack was an attack on Tesla he made in the comments section, and this was widely supported by CleanTechnica themselves, as their editor, the guy in charge, liked this comment. It says, Tesla commentary has turned into a MAGA dumping ground, and I fear that their desire for a leader and hunger for mainstream acceptance, coupled with their mindless acceptance of every utterance, will only encourage the worst in Elon Musk. Now, I'm just going to share with you a couple more. The comments say that Musk has moved to the far right to support a communist party of hate, division, and liars. He's a sociopathic freak, and he's an autistic creep. If we, the people, don't limit the power of Musks and Rockefellers, then we are all forever effed. The good thing is that Musk can now die, and Tesla and SpaceX will most likely not survive, but prosper and do much better without him. Clearly, Elon Musk is the most hated man in the universe. His companies are accelerating the 6th mass extinction event, causing massive climate change. And we are seeing a sociopath fully unleashed. There are no others of any importance in their lives than themselves. Musk has become an unstable narcissist, attacking the values of most Tesla supporters and supporting the attackers of American democracy itself. The Tesla board now has a fiduciary duty to the shareholders to immediately oust him. Now, Zachary, CT's editor, claims that the majority of hardcore Tesla fans from 6+ years ago now agree with the majority of these statements. You can go in the comment section below, and in the article I'll put a link, and you can read them. You can see the comments there. Now, I understand a lot of people want Elon Musk to keep his opinions to himself because often those opinions don't align with theirs. A lot of us are like that. I often feel that way about other people making comments, and you might too sometimes. That's just normal human nature. But I do think it's a little bit ironic that people are proclaiming him to be a threat to democracy, since opinions and diverse discourse is the very foundation of a healthy democracy. Otherwise, what does it become? An autocracy. Now, the other big problem I have is something going on right now in the world. And that is, Johnny Depp was convicted by the media many years ago for beating up Amber Heard. He may or may not have. I don't really know. I watched some parts of the case, but the reality is, the media convicted him without a trial. Now, Elon hasn't gone to trial for being convicted of sexual harassment or any sexual misdeeds yet that I'm aware of. And if we write these articles insinuating that in fact he is guilty, then what is the point of democracy? The point of democracy, in my view, is that you are not guilty until proven so. You need to at least get an opportunity to prove that you're innocent. Now, clearly, Steve is assuming it's true that Elon and Tesla want to have a toxic workplace culture. That's ridiculous. I've heard Elon say many times that he wants people to be happy to come to work and he wants them to work hard. In my view, I think Tesla and SpaceX, in particular Gwynne Shotwell herself, want to have a good work environment, and those who harass co-workers should be fired. Now, some of these statements obviously imply that Gwynne Shotwell is very much complicit in the racist and sexist work environment at SpaceX, where she's the main person in charge. Now, my big concern here is that in the US, frivolous class action lawsuits happen all the time to rich people. What gives the author of this article the 100% certainty and confidence that these blood-sucking lawyers are on the right side? That in fact, these so-called crimes were actually committed. My personal concern is that Zach is strongly supporting what could be lies, gossip, and falsehoods. So, Steve, now if we've learned anything from the Amber Heard trial, maybe we shouldn't rush to conclusions and make accusations without really knowing the truth behind them. My personal advice to myself, and I've said this a number of times, to you, to the people working at CleanTechnica, if Twitter triggers you, get off it. Look what it did to Kevin Durant, the basketball player. He lost his mind trolling Twitter. He's trolling Twitter 5 hours a day, making fake burner accounts, and it made him do things he never would have thought he would have done and said. Pretending to be other people. Twitter is not necessarily... Twitter is probably not the best place to spend your time. I recommend Elon doesn't spend his time there either. I recommend we all don't. Social media, mostly by and large, doesn't really bring the best out of people. And neither do hit pieces like this, which make look as though they are fact. Now, what I want to know is, do you agree or do you disagree? Now, I know by making this video, some of you are going to unsubscribe from the channel. It's inevitable. Many of you will agree. Many of you probably have already read this article and already agreed with Steve that Elon Musk is, in fact, all these things that he claims he is and that these commenters claim he is. And maybe he is. I don't know. I'm very well aware that some people will feel angry. Some people will feel like they want to support the Democrats. And some people will feel like they want to support Republicans. But I've got an idea. How about we forget about these politics? How about we come together? How about we ignore all this? Let's remember one thing. We're all people. And what do we want? What do we want for all of us? We want a better planet. We want a better world for our children. Let's focus on what really matters. And that is being better people and making the world a better place. Let me know though in the comment section what you think. And as always, thanks for your support and have a great day. Bye-bye.